Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Mark Pence's-Taylor, and this video is about painting my KITFOX fuselage black. Now the first step to get it painted was I had to move the fuselage from behind the paint booth into the paint booth. And right now I'm finishing the basement in my house, and I'm building the world's coolest aviation bar down there too. I can't wait to show you when it's done. But I had some contractors here today, so before they got started I had them help me move the fuselage into the paint booth. So once that was in there, I cleaned it up and removed all the fingerprints and grease and everything from the tubes and got it ready to paint. Now, if you're wondering why I'm painting this fuselage in the first place and why I want it black, well, this is the paint scheme I'm doing on my KITFOX. It's yellow and black. You'll see the scallops on the wings, and there's a red pinstripe between the black and the yellow. I think this looks really, really nice. In fact, my buddy Mike that I bought the KITFOX from, his previous KITFOX was painted pretty similar to this. So it looks great on a KITFOX, and this is the color scheme I want to go with. So obviously I didn't want the fuselage to be white. It wouldn't match anything, so that's why I wanted to paint it black. Now the first step in getting this painted is I needed to scuff up the powder coating that was on the fuselage. The powder coating is pretty glossy, and you can paint it just as it is, but you'll get a much better bond or adhesion to it if you scuff up the surface, because it gives the paint like a mechanical bond, something to grab onto with all the little microscopic scratches in there. In order to do that, I found these Maroon Scotch-Brite pads work perfectly. I took one of these and I cut it into thirds, and I would just, wipe it around the tube until it was scuffed up. And it does wear it out fairly quickly. I went through 3 of these just doing the front half of the fuselage. If you guys need some of these, I'll put a link in the description box below. You can buy them on Amazon. They're I think it's like $28 for a box of them. All right, now the paint I'm using is the same paint I'm using on my Zenith Cruiser. It's a DuPont Nason urethane paint. I like this paint. It's easy to spray once you kind of get the system down. It's shiny, it's glossy, it's tough. It's a decent paint. Now on my last video, you might remember I showed you this little Harbor Freight paint gun that I got. And the reason I wanted this little gun is because there's so many tubes in the fuselage that you have to work around. I didn't want this big, huge paint cup on here. I wanted something really small that I could work around the tubes. And this paint gun worked great for that. Now I was a little nervous about this because this has a 1.0 tip. And what that means is that hole in the tip here is 1 millimeter. Normally for this paint I use a 1.3, and for primer I'll use a 1.4. So I wasn't sure if the paint would work with a 1.0, but I just, I thinned the paint a little bit more and it worked perfect. So using the Harbor Freight paint gun, I got a really nice spray. The paint looks fantastic, but about halfway through, paint started leaking out right around where the trigger is, where the needle goes into the body. So something in there, after about 20 minutes of use, wore out, and I actually had to wrap the paint gun in some paper towels as I was using it, just to soak up all the paint that was kind of pouring out of the needle. So it is a really cheap paint gun. It did do the job nicely, and I got through the whole job using this, but it really is a piece of junk. And it's pretty much a single-use paint gun. All right, now for getting this thing painted, it's kind of tricky to do because there's so many tubes, and you have to hit the tubes obviously from all sides, but you have to be really careful not to bump the painted tubes with the paint gun or the hose or your arm or whatever. So what I did was I kind of started on the left-hand corner, but I started from the inside of the fuselage and I worked my way out. So I just tried to get all the tubes in the middle, and then I figured, if I'm working out, I'm probably not going to bump the inner tubes. And it worked pretty well. It took me probably, I would guess, about an hour to get it all painted. I will tell you though, it was a lot of work to do this. In fact, before I actually painted it, but after I had already scuffed up all the powder coating, I really kind of started to regret doing this. I was thinking I should have just left it white and came up with some cool paint scheme that had white in it. But anyway, now that it is done, I'm actually glad that I did take the time to do it, because I really do want to use this yellow and black paint scheme. But if you're going to do this, just be aware that between the prep, taping off the tubes that you don't want painted, and then painting this thing, it was a pretty big hassle. But now I'm glad that it's done though, because I can take this fuselage out of the paint booth, and now as I'm working on my Zenith Cruiser and getting that primed and painted, if I'm waiting for paint to dry, with the KITFOX fuselage painted now, I can start putting in the floorboards and the flight controls and all that kind of stuff. Speaking of the floorboards, guys, I have a really good idea for something that I'm going to do on the floorboards, and I'll make another video on that. That's probably one of my next steps on the KITFOX, because I think probably one of the first steps is to get the floorboards back in there, and then the controls and everything, and the rudder pedals kind of get built on top of that. So look for another video coming soon on that. All right, guys, that's it. Thanks for watching. I just wanted to show you the fuselage now that it's all painted up nice. Next step, I'll take it out. Once it's dry, I'll put it on the gear, put the wheels on it, and at least I'll be able to roll it around the hangar. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe. Come back to check out the rest of the KITFOX build.